I'm sorry. At least it don't look like he suffered.
Well, Ellie'll suffer. She'll suffer plenty.
Here, give me that.
Well, all right, you ignorant pigs, put down your crack pipes and your beer bongs. It's time for Angry Tabletop Nerds Night at the Movies. This night's offering from Beyond the Pit is Pet Sematary, 1989, starring Dale Medkiff, Denise Crosby, and Fred Gwynne. Written by Stephen King, directed by Mary Lambert. Based on the novel Pet Sematary, of course. Yes, I did say Denise Crosby, you Trekkie scum. Yes, she played Tasha Yar in Star Trek The Next Generation, and she was the only yellow shirt to be killed by a tar baby alien, which is really too bad because she was actually kind of hot in the uniform. I don't know what it is about her. Maybe she was 5'8", decent build, and she was the one person that made the uniform of Star Trek look less awkward. Let's check it out.
Oh, shit.
Huh? That's the most upsetting place to cut!
So, Pet Sematary came about for Stephen King when he and his family moved into a new house somewhere near Orono, Maine. That's kind of what the town is based on in this story. And there were three key events that happened to Stephen King that would come out in the story. Well, the first one being, of course, the move into the new house next to a busy road. And then the other one would be a neighbor who lived adjacent to the house somewhere, a lot like Jud Crandall. And then finally, the death of the family cat. All of these things kind of happened in real life. The book was published in 1983, though it sat in a drawer for 5 years before the date of publication. And then the book would ultimately spawn a movie in 1989. Now, this story kind of basically tackles an age-old conundrum. What if you could have 3 wishes? 3 wishes are given to the father of this family, and they all deal with resurrection. The first wish, of course, being to bring back the dead cat so that his daughter doesn't have to suffer the pain of loss that goes with losing the family pet. So the first part of this film, the Creeds move into a new house, and it's along a very busy road. That's the first thing you notice about the house, is that it's on this busy road. As a matter of fact, the road is basically like the co-star to Dale Medkiff or Louis Creed. They build this thing up from minute one, and it keeps making its appearances. Like before Louis crosses over to go see Jud, big truck passes by. A lot of big tanker traffic on that road, which is somewhat true to life because as a driver, I know that tanker truck drivers who are driving fuel, they don't slow down for shit for some reason. They're always full speed ahead at 75 miles an hour, or if they can do it, they'll make 85 miles an hour. They don't give a flying fuck how fast they go. I mean it. So you spend some time with the Creed family, just as they get acclimated. Gage is almost killed within the first 10 minutes of the movie, saved by Jud, played by Fred Gwynne. Then you spend a little bit more time with the Creed family, and Jud takes them to the Pet Sematary, which is kind of a thing that happened to Stephen King. He bought this house, and there was a path. There's a lot of paths behind the houses out in rural Maine, and his path just so happened to lead to a pet cemetery. How true that is to life, I don't know. That's just what he said. There might have been maybe a pet grave, I mean, you'll never really know for sure. And then, of course, the one thing that you notice is that the art department went ape shit inside of this movie set here. outside location. The next thing that you notice is all the graves and all the epitaphs on those graves were written by Stephen King. Stephen King would make frequent visits to the set. And another cool thing that you notice in this is the giant deadfall of trees and foliage acting as a barrier, which will come up later. Ellie learns about death in the graveyard from Fred Gwynne's character Jud, and then she's sitting there crying about like how her cat is eventually going to die. But cats do have a lifespan now. I think the lifespans of cats have actually gotten longer. I'm looking at my cats and I'm like, God, I just want a kitten, but at the same time I don't want my cats to die, because sometimes dead is better. So finally you go to Dr. Lewis's Creed's first day of work. Some guy named Victor is hit by a truck. He's got his brain meat poking out. Dr. Creed tries to save him, offers his condolences, and it just wasn't meant to be. When your brain meat is poking out, I think you're pretty much done sparse. Victor Pascal's ghost comes to Louis Creed in the night, and he acts as a harbinger of things to come, pointing at the deadfall of trees within the cemetery, saying that the barrier was not meant to be crossed. Later, the Creed family goes to Chicago, all except for Louis. Louis stays home because of some unknown beef with his father. And then he gets a phone call from Jud about a dead cat on his lawn, basically. And this same phone call Stephen King got in real life about a dead cat. Jud takes Louis over the deadfall, over the barrier, to the Micmac Indian burial grounds to bury Ellie's dead cat, because Jud is a very sympathetic character, and he doesn't want Ellie to suffer the pain of loss of her first pet, which is something that everyone has to go through. I remember when they had to put my first Doberman to sleep. Conan was a really good dog, and I remember when he just couldn't live anymore because he had throat cancer so bad that he could barely eat. We had to feed him hamburger just to get him to eat anything. And I remember giving him his last meal and then him not being around anymore. I was probably about 11, 12 when that happened. But it was a very prominent pet, and so he didn't want Ellie to go through that. He even pointed out his grave to Ellie. This is where I buried my dog Spot back in 1906. Back in the day, back in my day. Now, the cool thing about the burial grounds itself is that it's a real location inside of Maine, and then further from that, the burial ground for the movie is used. Again, the art department going completely apeshit, using heavy equipment to move the rocks around to make this primordial Neolithic looking site. Now, as a white boy living out west, I know that if you're a Caucasian male or Caucasian anything, you should never trespass on Indian burial ground. It's just something you do not do. And they guard that place with spirits and other kind of juju. And it's just, look what happened to Jeremiah Johnson when he trespassed on Indian burial ground. The Crow came out and they killed his whole family because of it. And then he had to go and have a beef with the Crow about that later on. So the Micmac Indians themselves, they're also an offshoot of the Algonquin Indian tribe, and in the book and in the 2019 remake, they talk about the Wendigo, which I think was better left out in the first movie that they did. It doesn't really progress the story. This is just Stephen King kind of drawing in more of his surroundings into the story to weave his own tapestry, basically. I mean, you can do this story without the Wendigo any given time, and you still have a pretty good story. I do give credit to Mary Lambert for using this vehicle as a male vehicle, because everything that happens in this movie happens to Dale Medkiff's character Louis. Everything happens to Louis. All of the hard questions about death, all of the pain and the suffering that goes with the pain of loss happen to this father. All right? They try to tie in the sister story of Zelda, which was Rachel's sister with her spina bifida problem and everything. And this is part of the beef between her and her father, because Rachel had to care for her sister who had spinal meningitis, and it made Rachel suffer as a youth and everything, and that's why, he hates him even more. You could have taken or leaving it. It was another scary element, a grotesque, macabre moment, just like when the nanny decided to hang herself because she couldn't take the pain of having stomach cancer anymore. And you go back then, spinster women weren't really known for having money and health care. So, but it wouldn't be a Stephen King story without macabre side stories like Zelda or the nanny killing herself. And then, so in the third act of this movie, the big one happens. Gage is actually hit by the truck after they foreshadowed it within the first 10 minutes of the film. And it was just a lapse in the father's attention span for a moment. And again, everything that happens in this movie happens to Louis. And after the funeral, Rachel and Ellie, they go back to Chicago. And the dad is, he's thinking about it. And finally, Jud tells the dad about what happened to a boy named Timmy who got back from the war, and basically they buried him up in the Micmac burial grounds. The guy came back as a zombie / Frankenstein monster, which, I really like this scene because it gave a nod to the 1930s Frankenstein and how they burned the windmill down with the monster inside it, and they burned the house down where Timmy and his dad were living with them inside of it because he was an abomination. Once you come back from where the ground is spoiled, you come back different, and you come back bound to the person who interred you in the Indian burial ground. Now, he does bury the kid up there. He crosses the barrier again for the second wish, and Pascal's telling him, look, don't do it. Don't cross. The barrier was not made to be crossed. And he marches up there and does it anyway after exhuming his son. Now, Miko Hughes was 3 years old at the time of this movie, and they were able to get an acceptable performance out of him, not to mention they had the help of a puppet to play as him as well. Miko Hughes was also the boy in Kindergarten Cop who was like, girls have a vagina, boys have a penis. And apparently he had some kind of beef with Arnold's bodyguard. Apparently there was a scene and the kid tripped him, and Arnold's stuntman, it was Arnold's stuntman, actually fell and hurt his head or something. He might have cut himself or something really bad, and it took 4 men to restrain him to stop him from beating the kid's ass. And I guess it was, he thought it was funny, and it wasn't. He always called him the fake Arnold and tapped his buttons as hard as he could. And apparently there's a beef to this day. I guess, when you're still in your 30s, there's really nothing a 70-year-old stuntman can do to you at that time. So I guess you should apologize or something. But there is a beef there. And Louis basically goes to sleep, and then the boy comes back, kills Jud, kills the mother who is returning from Chicago, and all of this happens in a dream. And then he gets the phone call from Gage. And so now he knows that he knows the error of his ways, but he's still grief-stricken and in all kinds of emotional distress. He goes and subdues the cat first. And then he goes to confront Gage inside of Jud's house, where he finds the body of his wife hanging from one of the rafters, and he finds the body of Jud. He subdues his son after a very scary, intense fight between the 3-year-old and the spliced-in puppet that they used for him and everything. And he basically burns down the house, takes Rachel's body up there, and against the wishes of Victor Pascal's ghost again, telling him not to cross the barrier, not to bury his wife up there. He buries her, goes back to sleep. Next morning he wakes up, his wife's there, and he kisses her half-chewed face, and she picks up a knife, and you hear a scream. Now, in the book, one thing I do know is that she just comes back, and the book ends. They have that extra little moment of her picking up the knife as they embrace, and then you hear the scream, and then you hear the Ramones hit song Pet Sematary, which is in the credits of the new one, and somebody covered it and it sucked ass. So, you know, I mean, don't see the new one. I'm just going to tell you that now. But the cool thing about that is Dee Dee read the book in 2 weeks. And that, which is pretty cool, because back then in the 80s I couldn't read a book in 2 weeks, but and then he wrote the song in 10 minutes. Now, one cool little fact about Stephen King is that he is a rabid Ramones fan. So let's get to those Slayer Pit totals. We have 7 dead bodies, 1 guy hit by a truck, 1 baby hit by a truck, 1 cat hit by a truck, 2 cat jump scares, 1 jump scare. One maid hanging herself, gratuitous Stephen King, the guy from the Munsters, 1 exhumed baby, 3 cases of when babies attack, scalpel foo, gratuitous Ramones. Slayer Pit Academy Awards go to Dale Medkiff. If it were up to me, honey, I would let Church live to be 100. And then Best Writer Award goes to Stephen King for one heck of a screenplay, even though he is a woke-tarded liberal shithead. Anyway, Angry Tabletop Nerds gives Pet Sematary 1989 4 skulls. Check it out for the month of Halloween. You will not be disappointed. Anyway, as you know, I have released the first video and everything, and there is a Rumble version. There will be a Rumble version of this one as well. If you want to get in touch with me during Monster Fest to weigh in, you can always get in touch with me on Instagram. Instagram DMs are the best way to get in touch with me. I'm usually pretty punctual when people contact me. If you are a patron, I just wanted to let you know, thank you, and you are actually getting these videos earlier than everybody else. You had them before anybody else, and so I want to thank you there. If you are on Rumble watching me, please leave a like and a comment. A like and a comment and a share go 100% farther than they do on YouTube to helping me have a greater reach. The algorithm actually works, whereas like I'll get 20 likes on a YouTube video movie review, and that'll be it. And that'll be it. YouTube will cut off the algorithm to that video immediately. So if you are watching me on YouTube, you are watching the YouTube lame version. You are getting the light version of this review. So don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe over there if you are watching me on YouTube. I do appreciate my YouTube audience, but come and join me on Rumble. Anyway, if I don't see you, keep painting, keep playing. Don't forget to check out the Rumble version of this video, and we'll see you in the next one. And stay metal, my friends.
More of an expert at exposing the moon.
Get out of your telescope! See if you find the one crater.